Hello everyone and welcome to Live Trader Talk number 9. Just to introduce myself to you, my name is Morgan and I'm the head of trading at MSC Academy. And for the purpose of these videos, I'm going to be sharing with you the trade ideas that I take with trading the financial markets. And you'll be able to learn from them and also follow along as well. If you are trading in the markets, then these are some great ideas for you to take a look at, and under your own decisions, you can also take a look at seeing if you want to trade some of these trades as well. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be focusing on 2 trade ideas. So you'll see Live Trader Talk number 7. I gave an update of the intraday trading that I had during the week. So that was on the 7th. On the 8th, I did a trade update on 3 different trades. And then on the 9th, I was focused majority of my time on looking at new trade ideas in stocks and in indices. So taking a look at the US 500 specifically, so the NASDAQ, and then taking a look at a few other indices as well. So I've been able to pick up 2 different trades that I'm focused on, and I'm going to share those with you now. So for the first trade that I'm taking a look at, it is NVIDIA. So this is a momentum relative strength trade that I'm focusing on at the moment. And it is definitely a trade that is spoken about a huge amount in the market right now. There's definitely a lot of speculation around whether the market is pro AI stocks right now or if there's a bubble. But personally, based on my research, I believe that NVIDIA is still a very strong stock. It's leading the AI supply world, and it's really a standalone company, but at the same time, they're providing the hardware for AI development. So it would be the same as looking at a company providing oil drilling rigs for companies that are drilling oil. So by definition, you're investing in the oil by knowing that whether they hit oil or not, they're going to be requiring the machinery to do that. So NVIDIA provides a very similar opportunity in the sense that all AI-driven companies around the world, majority of these companies are going to NVIDIA for the hardware. And just on Saturday, the CEO of NVIDIA went to the press to share some input about his increases in ordering, I forget the name of it. I believe it's a certain type of chip that they use in their graphics cards because of the increased demand that they have for their graphics cards. So they're basically going to their suppliers and saying, we need more because we need to meet demand. So it seems like the demand is rising for NVIDIA, and given that we've had a very big pullback on the NVIDIA stock, this could be a buying opportunity depending on how you look at it. So I'm going to share with you a breakdown of what I'm looking at, and then we'll be able to take a look at the charts as well. So when I speak about a momentum or a relative strength trade, I'm looking at a trade that has shown a great deal of buying pressure, specifically a stock, over a specific quarter. So if I were to take 1 quarter and then the whole year, I'm looking for a specific set of metrics. So one of them being that the stock has gained over 25% value over a quarter and has held that valuation over a period of 1 year. So when we take a look at this red box over here, basically this is doing a calculation on NVIDIA, basically taking a look at the valuation from the 21st of April all the way up to the 22nd of July. So that's over a period of 3 months. And over that period of 3 months, the gain was over 72% over 1 quarter. Now, the gain annually is 26%. So if you were to take a look at where the market came into the year, it was around about over here. Where are we? There we go. So around about over here, we came into the year off the highs of this peak here, and the market sold off quite steadily down into the lows. Now, once the market hit that bottom, you could see that it had a very strong push to the upside. There was very little downside volatility, showing that the underlying market value is strong. So there's not a lot of speculation within this last quarter about whether NVIDIA is a buy or a sell opportunity. Everything has stayed on the side of knowing that it is a strong buy and it's a good opportunity to trade or invest in long term. So given that it's a 72% gain over one quarter, that's an extremely high gain. But still, for showing a solid momentum and relative strength investment or trade, it would definitely fit the criteria. So just going back to the daily time frame, I'm going to zoom in over here just to show you what I've been looking at. So you can see that the market gained over 72% over this quarter. What was the other one? So there was a so there was a very strong breakout that formed over this level. So you can see over here, basically the market pushed up to this level, consolidated above the 25% gain or the 72% gain level. So that's one of the things, is once the market begins to consolidate, you don't want it to consolidate back into the area that you've already measured. So that's also an important thing to keep an eye on. Of course, this measurement that you're taking is based on where you decide the measurement to be. So that is also another factor, is that you can create the criteria. However, in terms of when you're looking for market structure, beyond the 25% gain, minimum 25% gain, you want some type of consolidation that's bullish. So whether that's consolidation into a bullish breakout, into a bullish trend, whatever that might look like, that's what you're focusing on the majority of the time. So once this market consolidated into these levels over here, you could see that a great breakout level was formed, and the market broke beyond that level and sold back down into that level. So this would be somewhat of a failed breakout, but also given that this is on the daily time frame, one could also say that that was a successful breakout followed by a strong pullback. So market broke out, pulled back, consolidated on this bullish trend line, and broke out once again. We have seen now the market has consolidated at these levels right at the top. There was a few piercing candles to the upside. These wicks were basically pushed all the way back down, followed by a very strong 5-day sell-off. So this sell-off was around about 7%, give or take, and that was over the last week. So there's been a very strong sell-off over the last week. And what I've seen with most stocks last week was that on Friday, we had a very strong push to the downside, followed by a very strong push up, which you can see is resembled in a very similar way on the US 500. So you can see how on the daily, we have a very similar candle that resembles what we can see on the NVIDIA charts as well. So there was definitely a lot of factors involved. One of the main factors being that the government shutdown in the US, it seems like the Democrats have put forward a solution as to what they want to end the government shutdown, and it seems like that proposal could be accepted. So there was a lot of opportunity and promise pushed back into the market. Investors are very careful about pushing into the market with more money, given that we're slowly moving into a bit of a risk-off atmosphere. This is something that I discussed a lot more in Trader Talk number 7. That was on the 7th. Now, this is definitely an opportunity for us to look at a buy entry. However, as you can see, the market has moved far beyond this breakout level. What happens very often when markets break out is they will retest that breakout level. So given that this is on the daily, usually you would see the retest on the breakout on a smaller time frame, like an hourly or even a 30-minute time frame. We've now had that retest on the daily time frame. Now, what this has also created, not that I often watch indicators for a prognosis, but often I'll use them in conjunction with fundamental and technical analysis, is that the RSI has dropped all the way down to around about 40. So what the RSI provides is it's a relative strength index. So it's providing you a general overview of what the strength of the market is over an average period of time. And often what you will see with breakouts or with markets that bounce off a certain level is any range between 35 to 45. Sometimes people say between 30 and 50 is an opportunity for a market bounce. Now, if I were not using this, I would be also taking a look at the trend lines. So on the trend lines, not the trend lines, the EMAs, I often use two EMAs, a 20 period moving average and a 40 period moving average. And what we can see here as well is the market has bounced to test those levels. Now, historically, what you can also see is that the market has broken below this level. So one would say to me, well, aren't you using the incorrect method for this? Now, for EMAs, I often use an EMA cross to be able to identify whether the trend is bullish or bearish. And this is what I'm using mostly for the time being. Now, if you have a longer EMA, a longer period EMA, that cross is going to occur a lot further down the line. So when a trader would normally be using a 50 period EMA or maybe a 100 period EMA, using a tighter EMA and knowing that the market is going to pierce below that level and you must recheck your measurements, that is easier for me to do than to have 4 or 5 EMAs running on a chart. So that is two confirmations. One is the RSI has dropped to that 40 level, which is an opportunity for a bounce. And the second one being that the EMA's price is basically pierced below the EMA, and you can see on Friday we closed right above it. So what I'm watching very carefully is if inside of that area, there would be an opportunity for a buy. So two important things that I've been watching here is one being the recent swing high. So you can see over here, there was a very strong swing high that was set up on the first breakout. And you can see, of course, the second breakout is up over here. Now, what I've been wanting to see is that if the market does pierce down back to this level, we could see that opportunity for getting in an entry much tighter to the breakout zone. So where this red rectangle is, that's my preferred entry zone right over there. Now, I have to be able to watch the market next week and see, is the market going to pierce down to this level or is it not? One thing I believe could be an opportunity is that we're going to see the market regather. And if we don't see the market pull back to this previous support level, we're going to see this market test this historic resistance level. So there could be an opportunity for a bounce off the support to enter, or there could be an opportunity for a breakout off of this trend line right over here. So those are the two options for the entry zone that I'm watching for. Stop zone, I'm basically going to be setting my stop at 174, which is around about over here. So that's below the previous swing low. Now, I am going on a more conservative position with this because this is a momentum trade. So a momentum trade is a trade where I'm focusing on a time frame of a few weeks to a month or two. And so I'm taking a much smaller position, meaning I can have a much wider stop loss area. And specifically why I want to keep a much wider stop loss area is you can see that there is a lot of market volatility in Friday's close. So I don't want to put my stop loss in a position where I can get stopped out and then the market continues moving higher. Of course, in terms of a take profit and a breakout zone, The first breakout zone is going to be this level over here, with the second breakout zone being here, where we could see the market regather and break out beyond these historic highs. Now, take profits, it's going to be if we see a complete breakdown of the 20 EMA and the 40 EMA and both trend lines. So this trend line is definitely what I'm focusing on at the moment. If there is an additional trend that forms up, I'm going to be adding that additional trend. But basically, if both the 40 and the 20 EMA are broken and the market closes below this trend line and below both EMAs, I'm going to be getting out of my position. So if my stop loss hits, that completely invalidates this position. That's why you want to put your stop loss in an area where you know the only way your stop loss is going to be hit is if the trade idea has fallen through completely. You don't want to put your stop loss in a zone where it can still be hit and then the trade plays out in your favor. Furthermore, in terms of my fundamental view of this, there is a lot of people looking at NVIDIA as a dip buying opportunity. NVIDIA is a very strong stock leading the market. Market valuation currently sits at, the market cap currently sits at something like $5.8 trillion. It's astronomical. It's almost unbelievable when you think of that. And although their earnings is, I think their most recent net earnings was about $87 billion. If you look at the fair value market, that valuation is already anticipated to go up to 105 billion. So with a 5.8 trillion market cap, their intended net revenue would be looking at somewhere around $150 billion. So when people are saying that NVIDIA is way overvalued beyond its earnings, there's an argument to be made there. I don't necessarily think it's way beyond its earnings. It is definitely far from its earnings, but there could be an opportunity that with increased production and increased demand for this hardware, you could see earnings catch up with market valuation. So I still think this is a good momentum play that you can buy in on the pullbacks and hold that position, knowing that as long as those trend lines are being obeyed and you're in the profit, you can make a decision about whether you want to hold that position or cut your trade off and walk away with whatever profit you have in the bank. Going into the next trade idea, one of the trades that I want to focus on is the US 500. So the US 500 on the Live Trader Talk number 7, I spoke quite in depth about it, about what I believe could be intended for the market in terms of market movement. And at this point, given the volatility, it's currently a guessing game. Now, what I have been watching very closely is that over the last sort of, how do we call it, 3, 6, 7, 8 days, we've seen the market move in a bearish trend. Now, one of the things that I've noticed very carefully is that this bearish trend is expanding. So as you can see, it's not just a bearish channel. This channel is widening towards the bottom. So our lows are getting much wider. So if you were to do a measurement of ATR, the average true range, you can see that the market is much wider to the downside than it is to the upside. The upside is still keeping to the same level, while the downside is expanding quite considerably. So although I believe this is a dip buying opportunity, I have to be, I cannot be biased to my opinion about the market, and I have to be very careful about whether I believe it's going to be a recovery or a dip buy. Now, this is obviously going to affect the performance of the NVIDIA trade, is that if we have a very strong pullback to the US 500, that NVIDIA trade could become very quickly invalidated. So I'm often, when I'm trading stocks, I'm watching the indexes to see if the indexes are outperforming are doing well, then I know that the opportunities for buys on stocks is going to be good, and vice versa. If the market is falling on the indexes, then I know that sell opportunities on stocks are also going to be good. So it just depends, with a company like NVIDIA, it largely represents the performance of the market, or vice versa. The performance of the market largely represents the performance of the NVIDIA stocks. So in terms of this, what I've been watching for is on Friday, we had a bounce all the way to the downside. This was a trade opportunity I was waiting for quite literally the whole week. So I'd shorted into this position here. I had added sell positions down and holding that close to the close, but not all the way. And I was able to see that in the late PM of the market close, it was actually while I was filming Live Trader Talk number 7, I could see that the market had very strong recovery. So the market had a very strong close, and if you were to take this on the weekly time frame, you'd be able to see that. Let me just quickly pick up one of my other charts. You would be able to see that on the weekly, we had quite a strong close to the downside with a very, very long wick over here. So the wick definitely proves that there was a lot more volatility in the market and very strong price rejection of that level. Now, going into the hourly time frame, what I've basically been able to set up is a projection for what I believe could be happening next. Now, this is obviously me just drawing pictures on a chart, so it is not necessarily accurate, but it is a depiction from my end. So one of the big things I've been watching in terms of the performance for the US 500 is the volume. So you can see over the last 4 days, we've had continuous buying volume, and that buying volume has been very slowly increasing. I would say it's mostly steady over the last 4 days, with Friday being quite bullish. So we don't have the highest buying area, but as you can see in this area over here, when we had a very strong market sell-off, we had 4 consecutive days of buying, and then followed by a bearish day of selling and another 2 consecutive days of buying. So over this sell-off, you can see that over the last 8 days or 9 days, we've had only 2 days of selling, with the rest of the 9 days being basically buy days. So that's been a big indicator for me to watch that the market could be bullish coming out of this sell-off. But I need to be able to also take a look at what the macroeconomics and the performance of the news in the markets and what happens with the government shutdown and how it could affect this trade. So if I were to take a look at the trend lines that I've set up here, so we are sitting inside of this bearish trend. You can see over here there's been a movement of the market obeying this trend running down the center of this zone, and you can see now that the market has broken above this trend line. So what I believe is that we could be seeing this set up as a new breakout area, with the next breakout area possibly being this zone over here, where you can see price has abated quite strongly in these both of these areas. So I am watching very carefully to see if we have some resistance over here, instead of the market just playing out to the upside. But what I am watching here very carefully is that there is a big inflection point over here. If we see the market push up to this level, we're going to see one of two things. We're going to see a pivot or a breakout. Now, whichever it might be, I'm not entirely sure if there's going to be a breakout. I feel like there could be a pullback, but I think there could be a pullback followed by a breakout. So if we were to take a look at this area here, I believe that we're going to have a bit of resistance in this zone, followed by a push to the upside, this zone could be our opportunity for a sell or a buy. So I'm going to be watching very closely here. If we have a price structure on the 15-minute time frame that looks like we're going to have a push to the upside, I'm definitely not going to be short selling. But if we have a very strong test of this level followed by a bearish engulfing candle that comes back down to the downside, similar to what it looks like over here, then I'm going to be looking to get in on a sell position. So in terms of a sell position, I'm considering all options, but one of them is being that we could see the market bounce off this level, come down to the central zone over here, bounce off that level, possibly do a retest, and then move to the downside and basically meet these historic support levels where the previous market sell-off occurred in October around about the 10th. So those days in October were quite volatile, but as you can see, the market recovered quite strongly. I feel like there's an opportunity, if there is a sell sitting in here, that we're going to see the market moving to the downside all the way down to these levels over here. Now, beyond that, if we see that breakout could mean that we're going to meet the recent historic highs. So I'm going to be watching if there is a breakout. We could see the market move to this level over here, retest this high again, and then basically move back down to retest this support level, followed by more movement to the upside. So I'm being very careful on what side I take on this position. I want to be able to watch this in the 15-minute time frame on Monday and be able to see what levels are going to be tested here. But effectively, anything inside of this zone is a trade opportunity, either for a buy or a sell, but anything outside of that zone is no trade for me. I'm really not wanting to look at a trade for there. I'm the type of trader that wants to trade off a strong pivot point or a strong breakout point. I don't want to be trading inside of this noise over here. So outside of that, that is basically the two trades that I'm looking at going forward for this week. We did discuss in Trader Talk number 8, the Euro CHF, USD JPY, and the Euro USD. Those three trades to see what could be happening in terms of adding to the positions, modifying the positions. The Euro USD trade, I got stopped out, or I exited my trade, and I'm looking to get back in on that position as well. So that will be the third new trade idea. It's an existing trade idea, but a new trade to take. So those are going to be the three trades I'm looking for this week. And then just to give you a very sneak peek into some of the stocks that I'm looking at as well right now. So for the different stocks that I'm looking at, let me just quickly pull out. So there are 4 stocks that I'm taking a look at right now. One of them is Tesla, GameStop, Hewlett Packard, and HD. Who is HD again? Home Depot, yes, Home Depot. So these are very simplified ideas that I'm taking a look at. Let's just start off with Tesla as one of the first. So with Tesla, I have been watching this zone very carefully here to see if we're gonna eventually see a sell-off. You can see that Tesla has gone back to these recent historic highs. There was a beautiful breakout play here that I was able to get in on and hold to the upside. I then got out of my position when I saw that all of this chop was slowing the market down. I thought we were going to have a much stronger move, but there wasn't a much stronger move at all. But then as you get down into the hourly time frame, you can see that there's a very strong support level that's been established here, which has given some great trade opportunities with the market moving very strongly in our favor. So one of the trades I took was a buy on this wick right over here. I got in right at the bottom of the wick, and I saw that the market was stalling out over here, so I exited my trade on the cross of the EMAs. And then I basically left this trade. This double test over here basically spooked me out of the trade. I only saw this late, and then there was a perfect push to the upside, and then I basically got in on this trade over here. As you can see, the market was selling off beautifully. It created a really nice sell-off zone. When I start seeing this type of price action, at the level of a resistance, then I often know that once that resistance is broken, it's a perfect opportunity to get in on a sell. So with this being a historic resistance level, with this triangular breakout, I knew this was a great sell opportunity, and I was able to sell this all the way to the downside. I basically exited on the test of this support level. I thought that the market was going to bounce off that level, and it actually fell quite a bit further. But once again, that is a great trade to get into. And what I'm watching for right now over here is another opportunity for this trade to move higher. So I'm waiting to see if this market is going to retest this level. If the market does retest this level, I'm going in with another buy opportunity. But if the market falls down on this level and collapses on it, I'm basically going to be taking a look and seeing if we're going to finally break this zone over here and the market's going to be moving to the downside. So if this trend line gets a very solid break, then I know it's a sell opportunity. If there's a solid bounce, then I know it's a buy opportunity. But once again, Tesla being a very big player in the US markets, if the US markets is bearish next week, we might see the same thing for Tesla as well. So this buy opportunity might be completely invalidated if the market has a big sell-off next week that continues. So Tesla was one of them. GameStop was the other one. Let me just show you over here. Very, very simple. Basically a bounce. I'm looking for an opportunity to get in on a bounce of this support level. There's really not much to this. And if we see a very strong bounce of this support level, I'm going to see the market moving to the upside, hopefully quite considerably fast. But if we have the market stalling quite like this, then I might have to reconsider my options. So I'm hoping that we can have a strong bounce followed by a very strong push to the upside, but I'll have to wait and see. This kind of price trading, when the price is trading sideways for such a long period of time, is very difficult because not only is it going to bleed you out in terms of your swap rates, but now you've allocated a piece of your portfolio to this trade that's going to be locked up for a considerable period of time. So that's something you want to be careful about getting in and getting out of. Furthermore, in terms of the next trade, Hewlett-Packard is one of the next ones I'm looking at. So Hewlett-Packard is a breakout. You can see there's a beautiful triangular formation forming up over here. So I'm watching to see if there's a breakout to the downside or the upside. Depending on which, I'm probably going to get in. But one of the things that spooks me a little bit is when you take a look at this previous breakout, it was quite ironic. So we had this lovely setup here, beautiful breakout to the upside, followed by massive selling to the downside. I mean, this is huge selling to the downside, completely invalidates the breakout. And as you can see, the market broke to the downside, retested that breakout zone, and then continued selling off. So those are three things I'm going to be watching for: the fake out, I'm going to be watching for the retest, and I'm going to be watching for this level of volume getting in and out of the market. So I'm going to be watching my volumes very carefully, but just to take a look at what the volumes are looking at currently. Yeah, so on the daily time frame, we don't have much indication of bullish or bearish. We really got more bearish than bullish on this time frame right now. So it seems like there could be an opportunity for the market to break out to the downside given the volumes that we're seeing here. But the RSI hasn't moved very far into the bearish zone either. So I just have to watch this breakout formation very carefully, and hopefully I'm able to get in on this. And then the last one, Home Depot. Home Depot, I'm basically seeing that we've had the market bounce off this level. It's formed a bit of a dead cat bounce. You can see over here, if I were to go into the hourly time frame, you can see that the market's expanded quite a bit off this point. There was a very strong breakout level formed here. Market broke out to the upside and then basically sold off all the way back down to the downside. So I believe that this could be an opportunity for this market being testing its bounce on the breakout. So I'm watching very carefully to see if this is going to be the bounce breakout level. And as you can see, there's been multiple breakouts to the downside, and I feel like Home Depot could be a short opportunity. But once again, it is an overall daily time frame that I'm watching here to see, okay, this support level has now finally been broken. We now have a retest of that support level, and what I'm watching for is if we can have an opportunity for the market to continue its selling to the downside. Just like over here, we had a very strong area of sell-off followed by a nice bounce, and I'm hoping that we can see this selling continue to the downside. So those are just 4 trade ideas. I haven't given you a lot of information about those 4 trade ideas, but I've given you a lot of information about the 2 trades that I've already wrapped up and I've got ready for next week to get into. So hopefully you've taken some information from this to be able to take it forward into your own trading for the rest of the week and be able to apply the knowledge that I've shared as well as the trade opportunities. And yeah, let's hope we all end off on a green note for next week. So once again, everyone, thanks so much for tuning into this video, and I'll see you in the next one.